Hey everybody, what's up? It is Tyrah Starke. Welcome to, I don't know if I want to call it a season 2. I mean, I guess because it's been about a little bit over a month since our last episode. Okay, cool. Season 2, episode 1. Welcome back to Taking It One Day at a Time podcast. Here where we allow God to order our steps daily, no matter how long it takes. I'm your host, Tyrah Starke, and let me tell y'all, I've missed y'all so much. I know it's been, I think the first week of August, because it was when I had my hair in my protective style, and I had some twists in my hair, and so that was August. And so here we are in October, and we've got so much to catch up on. A part of the reason why I've taken a break is because I just needed, a couple of things. You guys know I said in the last few episodes that I had got a new job. I work for higher education. I'm a social media expert. I want to say like a social media expert. I don't know. But I am the communications coordinator. And pretty much that's just a fancy way of saying that I do all the social media for the institution that I work. And I absolutely love it. I literally, when I tell y'all, I am living proof, waiting on the Lord and watching him just move. I'm living proof, y'all. Like, I look back and I'm like, man, God was literally working behind the scenes to ensure that everything lined up so that he can get the glory. So you guys want to know that testimony, maybe you are new to the podcast, then go back to season 1, kind of like one of the last episodes I think I did. I'm just talking about faith and just talking about trusting in the Lord. And I'm just telling y'all, I am living proof, y'all, what holding on to God can do. And so that's pretty much where we are right now. So I, just getting into the habit of working again, and because I wasn't working. And so just getting into that habit of making a routine, having a routine, being a mom and wife and stuff, and just fitting in working again. That was a little bit of an adjustment for me. But thank God I'm at a place where I believe that it's very solid when it comes down to structure and organization and just kind of keeping up with our day-to-day schedule. I do feel like sometimes my social life kind of gets like a back burner a little bit. But that's not a bad thing all the time. I think also God kind of isolated me a little bit to just refocusing on the word and getting into the habit of finding time and just one-on-one time with the Lord. That was another episode where I felt like I was kind of dwindling because I was like, oh my God, I need to read my word more often than what I had been doing. And so just kind of getting into that habit, waking up at 5 now and with just me and the Lord while my baby's still asleep. Well, he's 1 now, taller, I guess now. Yeah. So that's why I've been MIA. I've been listening to the Lord and what he has for me and my family, writing those things down, diving deep into it. And let me tell y'all, everything y'all need is in this word. And so I can't wait to kind of share with you guys what God has been just imparting into me, these past month and a half, So I was working on being consistent, but the Lord had me pause. And so I feel like now we're back on the right track and just, getting more into back into podcasting. So season 2, I guess. Before we start, I also just want to send a special shout out to all the people who support this podcast, who support me. I do not take it for granted. I love you guys so much, and I'm just thankful for the support. I also want to give a shout out to all the residents of Florida. We've been getting hit pretty hard with like different hurricanes and things like that. But the Lord is faithful where I live. It was minimum damage for both Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. But that is not the case for a lot of other Floridians, especially that's in the South Florida. And so my prayers go out to those who have been affected by those hurricanes. And don't let the hurricane stop you from trusting and believing in God, because he still reigns and he is still on the throne. And so don't let this distract you guys from growing even closer to the Lord, even in the midst of loss and devastation, that God is still present with you all. So I really just wanted to share that. So today, I just wanted to share, and I know we talk about faith a lot on this podcast, but It's very necessary. Sometimes people can lose faith or lose hope, and I would just my prayer is that as many people that can know about Jesus, that is like that's what touches my soul. Like people knowing who Jesus is, people wanting to know more about the gospel, people wanting to, even if they have questions of doubt or questions just wanting to know more, that's okay. We can start somewhere. But faith is like a big thing for me right now. Let me tell y'all, I've been studying the book of Acts. We're going to get into that maybe next episode. But this episode, I really wanted to just talk about mustard seed faith. And then just what, my thoughts, really. So I'll take it kind of story time. So I am a youth minister at my church, me and my husband's youth pastor. Nonetheless, we have accepted the call. And so that also, comes with challenges sometimes. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, Lord, I cannot do this. I am not qualified. I felt like I didn't know my word enough. It was just a lot, right? And so, but God clearly, gave us the call, and we have to abide by that. I don't get it right all the time. I'm still learning some things. And so anyways, one of my tasks I do, well, not tasks, but part of my duties of my church, we do youth Sunday school. So Darius takes the older kids, like 10 and up, like 11 and up, and I have like my like 3 to 4 to like 10. I love the babies. So this particular Sunday school, we talked about faith. We wanted to teach the kids about faith and how faith pleases the Lord. And so, of course, when we talk about faith, it can be a really big concept. And so how do you break that down for like ages 5 to like 10 for them to, kind of understand that? So in the lesson, it required for you to bring in different size balls, but I didn't have the physical ball. So I just like brought in a picture of 3 different sizes of balls. Okay. And a seed. So the first ball was a basketball. Okay. Second ball was a tennis ball. Or no, a baseball. Sorry. So basketball, baseball, a ping pong, okay, and then a picture of a mustard seed. And the question was, how big do you think God requires our faith to be? Now, these are elementary school kids. My youngest in there at the time was 5, and the oldest, I think he's 10, right? So they all had different answers. One, my 5-year-old, she said the basketball, because the basketball is the biggest ball out of all the 3 that I mentioned. And then you had another one, she's a little bit older, she's like 8. She was like, I don't know. I'm just going to say all of them. Okay. And then you have my 10-year-old, he's the oldest of that day. We have several kids, but on that particular day, it was only 3 of them. Anyways, and so he said, the ping pong. Okay. And so I was like, okay, do you guys want to know who's right? And everyone's like, yeah, I want to know who's right, And so I was just like, none of you are wrong. But God requires the faith of this tiny seed right here that this person's holding. And they all were like, what? It doesn't require the basketball? The basketball's the biggest one. And naturally, one would think that I need big faith to please God. And so when I told them that what really is required is this little tiny, tiny seed here, and I told them this picture isn't large. Mustard seed is actually quite smaller than this. They were blown away. They were confused. And so I said, none of you are wrong, though. None of you are wrong. And so I gave kind of my testimony. I said, so let's go in the word. Okay, let's go in the word. Let's go to Matthew. Matthew chapter 17. Matthew chapter 17, starting at the 14th verse, it says, when they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. O unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus is like, y'all can't do it, bring him to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed from that moment. Verse 19, then the disciples came in private and said, why couldn't we drive it out? Verse 20, Jesus replied, because you have so little faith. I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing is impossible for you. So, pretty much, the disciples didn't have the faith that they could take out the demon. But if Jesus is saying, y'all don't have no faith, but all you need, in the same sentence, on the next sentence, it says, all you need is faith as a mustard seed. I'm like, dang, they really didn't have no faith. Y'all, I don't know if you know how small a mustard seed is. It is the smallest seed. So in my mind, right, I'm reading this and I'm just like, so you mean to tell me you take a mustard seed and the disciples' faith was smaller than that? Probably non-existent then? Jesus only requires a size of a mustard seed faith. And we can speak to that mountain and say, move. So this is what I was telling the kiddies. Okay. The disciples had been unable to drive out the demon, and they asked Jesus why. He pointed to their lack of faith. It is the power of God, not our faith, that moves mountains, but faith must be present to do so. So even if it's just a tiny little bit, that pleases God. That pleases the Lord. It says, the mustard seed was the smallest particle imaginable. Even small or undeveloped faith would have been sufficient. So that tells us what? The disciples had no faith. And so how many of us are walking around and saying we're Christians, saying that we believe in the power of God, but deep down, we don't. I'll speak for myself. I have been there. Time and time again, okay, you have faith, so much faith, and then a year and 2 years pass by and it's still not looking like how you wanted to, and so you're saying I believe in God, but deep down, you don't know if he can do it. Y'all ain't gotta testify, I will. I'm gonna keep going. This is what I'm telling the Sunday school kids, okay? Okay, so even small undeveloped faith would have been sufficient. Perhaps the disciples had tried to drive out the demon with their own ability rather than God's. There is great potential in even a little faith when God is within us. So let's go back to the pictures of the basketball, of the tennis ball, the ping pong, and the mustard seed faith. So what I was telling them, none of them are wrong. So the one that said the basketball and the one that said all of them, they thought they were wrong, right? And so my evangelist Mimi was telling them, like, no, at some point we all are all these balls. At some point, that's why I say none of y'all are wrong. Some people may really have basketball faith, big as a basketball. Some people really may have a small faith as a ping pong, right? But at least you got faith, you know? And so I told the kids this. I said, there have been so many times where my faith started off as big as a basketball. I just love church. I'm feeling confident. I believe in the power of God, what I've been praying for. But then months go by, years go by. And now that same thing I was excited about and I believed for, now it has turned into the size of a baseball. So I was at basketball. Now I'm at baseball faith. Time goes by. Okay, God, I'm still trusting you. I'm still trusting you. But then another year goes by. Now I'm at ping pong faith. And sometimes when you're at ping pong faith, you just feel like, okay, I know what your word says. This is taking longer than usual, though. And now you're crying. Now your little sadness done kicked in. And now, before you know it, now I'm at mustard seed faith, the smallest one. I'm barely hanging on. Sometimes when I look at mustard seed faith, I'm like, oh, child, that's a person that have been going through and they barely hanging on. And so, am I wrong for it to be sometimes going down? Not completely. And the devil will try to bring shame to that. Oh, I thought you had faith. I thought you had big faith. And it's gonna be big. You singing that song, da 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 da. I thought you had incredible big faith. Let me tell y'all, where I'm in the position that I am now at my career, I would be lying if I told you that I've had this big faith for the past 2-3 years, wondering how God was going to make a way. There were days, and it would go up and down. Some days I felt really confident. I read my Bible, listen to a scripture, or I'm in a sermon, and, I'd be feeling real good. And then sometimes it went down to mustard seed faith, right? But I never lost sight. I knew God would do it. I just got impatient. Right? And so sometimes that mustard seed phase, sometimes it goes, sometimes you start out mustard seed, then you go to basketball, then you go to ping pong, and it's all over the place, right? And the enemy tried to bring shame to me. Oh, you read your word. You know who God is. You're about to be an ordained minister. Why is your faith dwindling? I want to be like the disciples, and they thought they were doing it in their own, they didn't have no power to take the demon out because they didn't have the faith. Right? So I guess I'm saying all this to say, if you are at mustard seed faith, that's all you need. That is all that you need. It will increase. I believe for you. I'm standing with you, and I will. So you ever seen people who just have faith out of this world, and you're like, no matter how the wind blow, whatever situation may happen, they are just like, nope, I got faith. I'm tunnel vision. I'm keeping my eyes on Christ. I ain't looking to the left, I ain't looking to the right. And you just be like, man, how did they get like this? Spiritual maturity, lessons, life lessons, but also knowing that God did it the last time. That holds me now. Let me tell y'all, before I got this job where I'm at in my career, I you want to give up sometimes. But I really believe the waiting period that I was in a waiting period, y'all, for about, dare I say, 3 years? I've been with Darius for 4. I've known him since 2020. We've been married 2 years. Yeah, right before our wedding. But even then, because I was at another job, I was a TV host, but I still was waiting on God to open up another door, even with that. So, dare I say, 3.5, 4 years been waiting. And the crazy part is, I'm not even in front of the camera what I wanted to do. But God has, over the years, matured me. And so it's not all about you. It's not all about being in the center of attention and being, that's another podcast for another day. It's not always about being in the front. Are you able to be in the back and serve? Are you able to go a different route than what you are familiar with? So my waiting period, it had a lot to do, I believe, with maturing me, strengthening me. Yes, my faith increased though, because now I'm just like, now I know, I'm like, okay, I see now that God works behind the scenes. The way everything is just so aligned, like childcare, hours. When the school shuts down for a hurricane, your girl don't have to work. I can stay home with my baby. I ain't got to worry about using no PTO. Like, it just every little thing, hours, like the days, the working from home, being able to still be a mom and, an active mom and active, wife, and just not, like, when I close my laptop for the day, I don't have to bring it home. Like, every little detail to God matters. And so now I know the next time when stuff may be taking a little bit longer, now I know that God is working behind the scenes. My faith has increased since then, But even if my faith kind of, maybe one day it's basketball, maybe the next day it's ping pong. As long as I still got some faith. It's dangerous when you completely lose faith. That's a dangerous game. The enemy tries to play mind games with you then. So don't lose your faith, y'all. Don't lose your faith. This Sunday school lesson, I was like, I gotta put this on the podcast because so many people have lost their faith. Some people may lose their faith with the hurricanes and things like that because they lost things. And like, who do I turn to? No, what His word says. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Know that today, you guys. Like, understand, faith moves mountains. Faith pleases the Lord. But the word says, without faith, it is impossible to please Him. So those who come to Him must believe that He is faithful. He is faithful. That's all we have for today. I thank you all for tuning in. Love you all. Don't give up on God because He won't give up on you. He's able. He's able. Love you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Y'all continue to keep us in your prayers. I am praying for more and more equipment. I'm praying for a better camera, better setup. I'm still praying on these things. So you guys pray with me as well. And we just love you all. We thank God for you all. All right. Have a blessed day. Peace.